the girls. Welcome to a Joy of Hobbying live. Today we are going to be working on a Space Marine Sergent Jovan. This was a limited edition model from a few years back, and it's kind of more of a diorama model. It's not. I mean, you can use it in the gameplay, but the base that it's on should be about this size, but it's actually based on this size of a model because it's a bit of a diorama. So it has a sword inside of an orc's head, and all we've done to this model so far is strip off the paint job from eBay, and we primed it gray, and we'll kind of go through some steps. I don't know how far we're gonna get. I know on the Space Marine we're probably not gonna get particularly far, but we'll kind of see what we can do today. What's up, Jason? What's up, Jeff? How you guys doing? Also, very excited. King Dingaling, which is a weird name to say live. I found a model of the Emperor for you, and I've printed it, and I've primed it, and I've done just a quick wash on it and a little bit of red. But at some point, we're going to paint this together, and it'll be fun. The print came out beautiful. The portrait, put this back over here. The portrait here also came out really nice. It's probably very hard to see because it's quite small. But we'll work on that at some point in the near future. But for now, let's get to work. Let's see what we got here. So we are going to use quite a few paints today. We're basically painting two entirely different things. So I want to start with this paint here, Yandan Yellow. It's a contrast paint. Yeah, Jeff the Emperor. It's very exciting stuff. And what we're going to do is coat this entire model in this paint. And that's going to give us the base for our yellow color. Shake up the bottle. Give you a little ASMR there. And we want to do a thick coat, but not too thick of a coat. And it's kind of a very fine balance. The goal is to color the model, but I don't want it to be orange. And the coat I'm doing right now is already probably a bit too thick, but we're going to work this around. And we're going to kind of see what this gives us here. And a little bit of this stuff goes quite a long way. Actually, I think that's not too bad. He's kind of Captain Morgan posing, which is quite funny. But we're going to work this around into all the little parts of the model. And this is going to be our base coat. You can see there I had taken a little bit of sprue mark off from the model. I didn't realize that until after I primed, but that's not going to be too big a deal. If anything, we'll just paint that yellow later in the next step. But this paint takes about 30 minutes to dry, so it's important that we do this right away. And that way, if we do have time later to do more stuff on this model, this layer will be dry. And we'll be able to do a little bit of dry brushing, which is always fun. Realizing now I don't have a paper towel, so I may have to grab that here in a bit. But yeah, we're just going to continue to work this around. Really trying to get all the recesses. You can see that's probably a bit too thick there at the top, so we're going to kind of take that and work this excess all around. I think that first coat was pretty good. I think it was probably just a tiny bit too thin, and that's okay. Jason said he's doing some virtual hobbying, so that's really cool. It's actually a really big football game on right now. I don't have cable, but supposedly it's quite a good game right now. My Eagles are playing the Cowboys. I think they're doing pretty good from what I see on Facebook. Now, this model is pretty cool. One, obviously, it's like more of a diorama, so that's cool. But also, if you look there at the chest, let me make it focus here. It got a little bit of battle damage, which is really cool. A lot of my models are quite weathered, but they're not particularly damaged. So that'll look pretty cool. Get the back of the sergeant's head. And again, we're just going to keep working this around, making sure we got a nice, somewhat even color on the model. Real easy to do. This paint goes on real easy. Definitely fairly forgiving. The one thing I would say is you don't want to leave it, because even if you leave it just for a few minutes without moving it, and you try to move it, it'll kind of get real sticky, and it kind of messes up the effect. I don't know why, but that's what they say, and that's what I've noticed as well. So just keep that in mind. And we don't have to get every nook and cranny, because we're going to hide some of these recesses with brown wash. We're going to also go in with a little bit more yellow paint in a little bit, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Just want to get it pretty good. Mr. Musashi said, I remember painting hundreds of Imperial Guard minis back in the day. Yeah, that doesn't sound particularly fun. I'm also realizing I have a paint handle. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Let's get this paint handle going. I realize my hands are hurting. It's because I'm not even using my paint handles. There you go. Much better. Look at that. I accidentally touched that yellow. Just kind of messed it up a bit. That's okay. Okay. Make sure that's in focus. In fact, let me bring this up just a little bit. Push this out of the way. There we go. Make a little bit of a live adjustment. Not too bad. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now, we are actually going to learn together, because I've never painted orcs before. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to manage that, but we will figure it out. So that's our first coat. Looks pretty good. Nothing too crazy going so far, but that'll do us for now. Allergies are acting up just a little bit today, so my apologies if I'm a bit sniffly. Let's get this mounted also. Okay, now this is going to be interesting. Again, I've never painted orcs, but I am excited. I am very excited. I think the color I'm going to start with, I think it's going to be Uniform Green by Vallejo. And actually, it's kind of... turn down that contrast just a bit. And that color looks kind of interesting. I don't hate it, I don't love it. But we're going to work with it. Musashi says orcs are actually okay because of the green being easy to blend. The rest is metal colors. Yeah, it should be interesting. Just something new. I've never done it, so it should be interesting. Also kind of interesting, I'm trying to figure out which parts of this model are supposed to be flesh and which parts are supposed to be not flesh. So we'll figure that out. Brenton, what's the score right now of the game? I'm actually not watching it right now. If you could let me know, that would be fantastic. Okay, let's load up our brush. I kind of like this green. I think it could work. Get back in frame. 20-3, not bad. Hopefully we can keep it up in the second half. This color, I'm just basically doing it straight from the pot. It's not too thick, not too thin. It's pretty good paint, to be honest. This model I actually got a really good deal on. I think it usually goes for about 50, 60 bucks. I think I paid like 20 and change. So really happy with that. And I'm realizing as I'm doing this, I probably should have done the mouth first. So we'll probably circle back before we get too in on the green. Okay, I'm going to pull up a photo of the model because I want to make sure that I'm painting what I think is flesh color. Let's see. Yeah, I think I was correct. Okay, so this looks like an arm here. Paint a little green there. And what I'll do is I'll paint what I think is flesh green, and then if I need to go back, that's not... Oh, yeah, that is clearly an arm. It's not too big of a deal. Let's see, that's going to be red. Those are some guts. And here's another arm. Okay, so I think it's actually not that much orc flesh on this, so... I don't think we put ourselves in too bad of a spot by not doing that eye first. But we shall see. And I'm not going to... Well, I'll just paint the inside. I'm going to paint this red anyways, but... Just add some green there to the inside of the flesh. There's a really cool paint that I haven't actually gotten to use too much of, that we're going to use today, hopefully. So there's that. There's that. Just touch up the green here. Bada bing, bada boom. Brenton says, I'm crazy talented. Thank you, Brenton. I appreciate that. I am but a student of the game, my friend. We don't care if we get the sword a little green right now, because we're going to touch that up with black anyways. So, okay, so I think that's it for the orc flesh. What I want to do now is I'm going to get some gunmetal. Vallejo Dark Steel, which is obviously a paint I've used quite a bit. We're going to paint his shoulder armor. All the shoulder armor the same color. Let's get us in. Yep, Danny, of course, buddy. Of course it's live. Oh, you're not going to focus? There we go. Get that painted on there. Nice and easy. I miss you too, Danny. And Vivian Victoria, of course. What a guy. Okay, so there's that painted nice and easy. It's actually really not that much to this orc. Okay, for the outfit of the orc, I think I'm going to do khaki. Yeah, I think I'm going to do khaki. Because I think that'll look the best with the wash color. So we'll go in with Apple Barrel Khaki. One of my favorite paints. If you watch me paint a lot, I use this paint quite a bit. Probably more than I should, but that's okay. Just such a good paint, and it's like super cheap. Alright, so... Got a little bit too much paint on the brush. Okay, so I'm going to just begin getting this khaki on here. This will probably take a few coats. It's pretty simple. In fact, I may switch to a slightly bigger brush. Let's see. Something like that. Just to get a little bit more paint on the model. I think that would be quite beneficial. Sorry about that. I'm dealing with some pre-show stuff. Okay, let's get this slapped on here nice and khaki. I think that would be a good color with the wash. I think it'll look really good. We'll want to be careful of this steel that we've done already and of the green. I think what I'm going to do is put a little bit of red where the open wounds are, and then that'll help with the next paint we're going to do, which would be in a few steps. This paint doesn't have the best coverage, so some of that green we got on earlier is going to show through, and that's okay. We'll just do a few coats to tidy it up. This isn't really supposed to be the focal point of the model, so it's kind of why I don't want to do anything too crazy color-wise. And I'll actually go ahead and do that red right now. The reason being I have the khaki out, and the khaki works really well for the works really well for the teeth. So we'll get this red. I'm actually going to switch back to that first brush. Just need a little bit of red in the mouth. Just like that. And then we'll go ahead and start kind of adding this red into the guts area. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I feel like it's real quiet because it's just me right now. Let's do this. Let's see, where's this at? Here we go. There we go. We'll turn that down just a touch. There we go, much better. It's like, man, it's real quiet right now. And this red is a bit bright right now. I'm not particularly worried about that because we're going to add quite a bit of paint on top of this, so we'll kind of build this up. So it might look, with all models, you kind of go through this phase where it looks real bad, and it happens all the time. Like, you're just like, man, this looks like shit. I should not be doing this. The important part is to push through that, because on the other side you got a beautiful model. Okay, let's get more red here. It's where this red typically colors pretty well, but it's coloring pretty poorly right now. Covering, rather, not coloring. That's okay. Let's go back to our comments here. Okay, I need to let that dry just a bit. But let's get a little bit of paint. Second coat on this tongue here. Again, not particularly worried how it looks right now. It looks pretty bad. TBH. Oh, there we go. King Dingaling, I got a surprise for you, my friend. Here, let me get this out of frame. King, you asked for it, and I have it here. The Emperor. And I'm going to work on it at some point. I just started just a little bit of paint on it. It's not, you know, really any detail work or anything like that. But it will be done at some point, my friend. Okay. Now let's go and do these teeth. Okay. Teeth are so easy. He's only got a few of them too, which makes it even better. Yeah, he's quite large. Tickling. He big boy. Man, this guy's teeth are fucked up. That's funny. And again, this looks pretty bad, but we're gonna keep on going. Let's get our khaki going again. Sorry about that. Let's get this red going again. God damn it. I don't know what is going on with this red paint, but it is not covering particularly good, and that's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll work with what we got. I also got some red on the khaki, which is fine. Blood's gonna be all over this model. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. Looking like a hot mess, and that's okay. Okay, next we're gonna go with Black Legion contrast paint. And we're going to paint this sword that's in his back. Paint the whole sword black. Being careful to avoid the orc parts. And I may have to take this off camera just so I can get this just right. So my apologies. Sorry about that. This is not very precise, but precise enough that I want to get it right. So I don't have too much cleanup to do. A slightly bigger brush. What's up, Ben Thomas? There we go. Move this out of the way. Okay, that looks good. We're gonna let that dry just a bit. But I want try to get some fresh red paint. To touch this up real quick, because there are a little bit of blood drops on this sword. I don't want those to be black. So we're using red for the base of our blood, which, duh. Get a little bit of red there. And we'll do a little bit more red here. Get a big glob of red. Again, fairly imprecise here, but that's fine. And that black is already almost dry, which is great. We'll go in with some of our steel color, start to do the details on the sword, or the chain sword, I guess, as it were. I usually paint this steel. And this one has a handle, so I'm going to paint that silver too. Or steel, rather. The silver will be in just a moment. And again, we're going to add, we're basically just doing base colors right now. Okay, excuse me for 1 second here. Okay, so I need to do that steel on this part here. Also, okay, that looks good. Okay, so the orc looks pretty shitty, which is great. Now the next paint we're gonna go in with steel. Oops, excuse me. Steel by Vallejo Model Air. It's a bit brighter. It's like almost like a silver compared to that dark color that we've been using. And what I like to do with this color is one, I paint this little dot right here. Boom. In fact, let's get that, try to get that in focus. And then I like to do the teeth of the chainsword. Just like that. And again on the other side. My logic is that thing on the back, I think, is like a motor. It's supposed to be like a chainsaw sword. So I think the motor would get quite dirty. But I imagine these steel teeth are quite sharp and they're cleaned quite often. So I kind of like to make them a little bit of a different value. Now the last thing we're going to do is just do a little bit second layer right here on that khaki. And then we're going to kind of get him washed up. Because it looks pretty shitty right now, admittedly. Let's go back to this guy here for a second. Looks like our the paint actually did extremely well. I'm actually quite happy with that. Now this is the second step, because yeah, this is pretty dry. Let's get a let's see here. You know, know, I let my kid use my favorite brush earlier, and now I'm kind of regretting it. That's okay. We'll figure it out. Oops, I bumped the camera. There we go. Okay, let me grab a piece of paper towel. I'll be right back. And I am back. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go in with Uriel Yellow, which is a really nice yellow color. We're going to take some paint on our brush like such. And we want to use a square tip brush for this. Take our paper, fold it up. We're going to work this paint into the bristles, getting most of it off. And we're going to take our model and we're just going to start brushing this yellow on. Now this is a very transparent yellow, and you might be thinking like, what was the point of the first coat of yellow? And trust me, I'm right there with you. I didn't see the magic at first. I was blinded by the light. This paint is so incredibly transparent that if you paint this yellow over black, it turns green. The reason that you're doing this is if you did this over white, the tone wouldn't quite be there and you wouldn't have any of this depth in the armor plating, which you really need to kind of sell this effect. And we're gonna build this depth up quite a bit. This step is crucial though. The contrast step is crucial. I thought it was a gimmicky paint, to be honest, but once I started doing it this way, I've tried to paint yellow for a long time. I could never get it. And then I kind of went to the store and was like, fine, I'll do your gimmicky paint system bullshit. It was so expensive. But you know what? It's pretty good and it's pretty repeatable. And I think the results, will speak for themselves on this model here in a few minutes. Once we get this done, we're going to give this just a few minutes to dry. It should be fairly dry. Obviously, it's dry brushing. But once we're done, hit this with a wash, and this yellow will fucking sing. It'll be beautiful. Okay, put a little bit more paint on there. It's also probably uses more paint than it should, but unfortunately that's the way she goes, as my friend Ben would say. I'm gonna try to get some paint on these two spots here because I know earlier they were quite gray. Worst case, that'll just be more battle damage, but I do want to at least try to get a little bit of paint on there. It's probably a little bit too much paint at once, but that's okay. We'll kind of just work this in. There you go. Perfect. You can see how good this is turning out already. Gives us a real nice yellow on all the top of the model. The next step we're going to do is going to help us identify the different parts of the armor, different tones that we're going to need to use. It's also a very important step. Okay, this spot did pretty nicely, but I'm going to go in with a little bit of a heavy dry brush there on that right leg because I'm still not happy with that spot. See if I can't just tap that in. I did a really thin coat of primer, so that hole is not very deep. That's what she said. But I like that. There we go. I think that's good enough for now. Okay, so he's looking quite good. Maybe just a little bit more paint on the top of the armor here. Kind of want to focus. Oh shit, I just broke him off the base. That's okay. We'll glue him back. I had a feeling that was going to happen, but that's actually a pretty good place for that to happen because he's basically almost at the point where he can be married with the second half of the base. Let's get him finished up here. Let's see, I do want to try to keep him on this separate base, so let's grab some super glue. I use super glue gel. I think it's the best super glue. Let me rephrase that. I think it's the cheapest, best super glue. There definitely are better glues, but for this, which isn't, you know, doesn't particularly require a lot of strength, I actually don't mind it. And you want that gel because the liquid will just run everywhere. So let's give him just a second to stand up, and then we'll go on. We'll continue. Now you can see I painted the flesh of the face yellow. It's not a big deal. We're gonna completely repaint that anyways later. Now coming back here, this is what we got. Let me get this yellow out of the way. It's messing my shit up. Perfect. Okay, let me just answer just a few messages real quick. Okay, now the brown wash that we're going to use is apple barrel burnt umber mixed with water and a drop of dish soap. The dish soap is quite helpful to allow the paint to kind of flow a little bit better. It's a surfactant. Just mix it up just a bit. And what we're going to do is take this paint and just kind of go in, and you can see it adds that depth that we're missing. We're going to do a few coats of this quite liberally over the model. I'll show you maybe, I think we'll do it today. You can actually just dunk the whole model in there. With this one I'm trying to be a little careful because that sword's black already. The chain sword. But with the Space Marine we'll just dunk the whole model in there and see what happens. I usually do a few coats of this. We actually may be coming up to the end of kind of what we're going to do today because this wash does take quite a bit to dry. But I will not touch the model until we stream again, so we'll I'd like to be able to paint the full model over a series of videos with you guys so you can kind of see from beginning to end the process. There's that. Let's clean up this little mess here. Now with the Space Marine, let's see, the glue seems fairly set. It's kind of a messy process, but you just dunk the whole thing. And you see it kind of just looks cool. Gets into all those details. I'll usually do that for the first coat of this wash. And then I'll go in with the brush and kind of get a little bit more particular. But that's the beauty of that dish soap. Just makes that wash just kind of run into all the recesses. If you didn't have that dish soap, what would happen, which is nice and, you know, is also something we want, but you'd actually stain a lot of this armor brown, which is actually an effect that we are going for. May have used a bit too much dish soap on this recipe, but it'll run into all the low points, which is really neat. We'll just kind of get some of this excess off. And we'll go in and start kind of doing a little bit extra ourselves. I like to go pretty heavy here. I do like my Marines to be pretty dirty. But, you know, dealer's choice, right? You could do it much less. And you know, flavor it to your own taste. Now, there are a lot of colors that we haven't put on the model yet, but I like to have the armor kind of done. And then I kind of work from there. What's really nice is like all these little bullet holes, or I guess like holes, I don't know if they're bullet holes, but all these little holes will catch these this wash, and it'll help me later when we're painting the model. We're doing actually painting on the model. Help me figure out where to add a little bit of steel. It'll really kind of inform me as to like which parts are gonna need which paints. And yeah, it looks like we're starting to get this guy off the base again, so he's probably almost done for tonight, because I don't want to deal with constantly gluing and re-gluing him and mess up the model. But we'll just be a little gentle with it. This is what we got for him. In fact, let me get this wash closed. I think that looks pretty good. Thanks, Erwin. He says, looking forward to Kill Team, Zack. Nice to see your process live. Yeah, I've been kind of wanting to do a model from beginning to end. And I think this model is so cool. And I was like, yeah, that's the model. That's what we're going to do. Now, in the video 2 of this model, we're going to go in and paint all the black, which is quite a bit. We're going to paint the helmet red because he is a sergeant. We're going to paint the flesh, which is a fun process. I actually really enjoy painting flesh. We're going to paint some steel. We're going to paint the purity seal. Paint all these little grooves. Paint the pistol. Paint the leather. I'm a pretty fast painter. I say that. But there's some people that could probably paint this model like in 20 minutes, but we probably won't need too many steps to get this guy painted. So let's put him away for now. We'll take a look at him in a few minutes. Get this cleaned up. Take a look at our orc. I think he needs more wash. Again, he's not really the focal point of this model, so he doesn't need to look like beautiful. In fact, let's just dunk him. Can I? No, it's not gonna let me. The base is too wide. But he will be quite bloody when we're all done. There's a paint I wanted to use, but I wasn't quite the right time yet, so we'll have to wait till next episode. But the paint is called Blood for the Blood God, and it's fucking awesome. Let me just towel up some of this. I'll have to go back on those teeth. I'm not quite happy with those teeth, but the flesh I think is a good color. Definitely going to go through and work on that a bit next time also. But yeah, overall, this is a really fun model to paint. We also got to do that texture effect. Let's close this brown wash for now. So there's that. Again, not my finest work just yet. But you gotta trust the process. It's gonna look pretty shitty right until the very end. So I'm banking on that here. I feel like I may need to make a slightly... You know what, let's do that right now. I feel like I need to make a slightly darker wash because it's not really hitting like I want it to. So we'll take our wash here, get a big dollop of that. I'm just going to add just a little bit more burnt umber because I feel like it needs a little bit more body. This is the burnt umber we use, Apple Barrel Matte Burnt Umber. That might have been just a little bit too much, but that's okay. I basically want this to really tint all this orc skin and all the armor. I want it to be like, yeah, that's exactly what I want there. I want it to be really brown. So when we come back next episode, we'll get to highlight this stuff up a bit. I think it was a bit thin. It wasn't really sticking like I wanted. There we go. That's much better. These are orcs. They're not going to have crazy, like, pristine armor. It is going to be quite dirty. And in fact, I'm going to take this brown wash and we're going to just kind of go over this Space Marine with the same wash. I've found that usually for these Marines, like the brown wash that I have, it's like kind of a generic quote-unquote strength brown wash. But usually for these Marines, I do want them to be a bit dirtier. And that was just a bit too clean what I was seeing. So we'll dirty them up just a bit. I think we'll call it a night after that. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Let's lower this a bit. I got paint on my mic. Okay, yeah, I think this looks pretty good. We'll stop here. Let this dry a bit. Kind of see where we need to go. Off camera, I may just touch up this wash just a bit, but I think overall, very happy with what we got so far. Sorry, I'm just realizing there's places that I didn't hit at all with the wash in the first place. Yeah, this is a really fun model to paint, so I'm excited to paint this with you guys. We will continue onwards. I don't know when. It'll definitely be this week because I need to paint a lot for this Armies on Parade thing. So there is Sergeant Jovan so far. Looking pretty good. Jason, this is a tune called Night Driving. I actually don't know who it's by or where it's from. It just comes with the software that we use. Or the program that we use, rather. So let's get him there. He'll dry up overnight. And then our orky compatriot. Again, he's got to be real dirty, so just continue to slap on a few extra layers there as it dries. And we'll come back hopefully this week with continuation. I think the orc is almost done, just a few highlights, and then add this paint here. Blood for the blood god. And then the sergeant does need quite a bit of work left. So thank you guys for watching tonight. It was just a quick little paint up I wanted to do. Didn't realize we had already almost hit an hour, but I think it was an hour well spent. Got some really cool stuff done on these two models, and it's very wet paint right now, so it doesn't probably look like anything, but we will come back and finish this next time. So thanks guys for watching. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me, especially with all the cool toy streams and whatnot going on tonight, and football and whatnot. Appreciate you guys not leaving me hanging. Eddie says this was chill. You helped me get some reading done. Look at that. What'd you read, Eddie? Let me know. Anyways, just cleaning up our mess here. Made a big mess. But yeah, that's how I paint yellow. That's pretty much the process there. It's really, really easy. My name is Zach. This has been The Joy of Hobbying, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Have a good night, everybody, and let's have a good week of work and everything else. Jumbo babies.